December 14th, 2019. We had a video go up that got 2.6 million views, the highest rated video on our channel. And we asked one question. D&D Players, what was your funniest Nat 20 moment? Now, continuing the series, we are all the way at part 6 of what was your funniest Nat 20 moment. So, get your popcorn ready, kids, because it's going to be a doozy. I remember the first campaign with my current longtime group. We were doing the Lost Mine of Phandelver, I believe. I don't remember the details, but I rolled 3 nat 20s in a row. I think the first two were like a perception check and a stealth check. The third one was an attack roll to kick an unsuspecting orc off the edge of a chasm. Well, with that third nat 20, I Sparta kicked the orc into the chasm, though he screamed as he fell and alerted the others. The cool part is that my DM's house rule, which said I got a free wish spell for pulling 3 nat 20s in a row. What an interesting rule. I used it later on when we met a female black dragon whom I was sure was going to TPK us. I may have done the stereotypical bard move, wink wink, but instead of seducing her, I actually wished that she saw my tabaxi as the only mate she would ever love. It worked, though the DM had her true polymorph into a copper dragon, so I didn't have an evil wife. Finished the game with my bard and his dragon wife were still together, though she had disguised herself as a female tabaxi to travel with him. Now that was a funny and a cute little story. There was a fun moment when people were making bets on a droid race in a Star Wars 5th edition game. The contestants of this particular race were the Major Domo of the Hutt Crime Lord, the top-ranked gladiator of the same Hutt Crime Lord's personal squad, our own hacking specialist, and a complete underdog of a second-rate Gamorrean guard. After we had placed our bets and the match began, to our big surprise, despite his penalties to his rolls using the VR controller for the droid he was piloting, the Gamorrean rolled not 1, but 2 nat 20s over the course of the race, easily tying for first place with the Hutt's Major Domo. This is part of the reason I always tell people that the dice are the true storytellers of D&D games, as everything, including his stats, were stacked against him. But somehow, the bumbling brute of a guard managed to eke out something close to a victory. I'm currently playing a sorceress named Zulra in one campaign I'm in. She's a level 4 storm sorcerer. This campaign is set in a world where people can build up karma and earned wishes. The older you are and the more karma, good or bad, you've built up over your life, the more wishes you get and the more powerful they become. When I started the campaign, Zulra was basically at a 10 in every stat, except charisma, with nothing else higher than 13 in constitution. It's a tribal or prehistoric setting as well, so I played Zulra as being very sweet and naive. She's also 17 and has basically never gone far enough outside her village where she couldn't see the village, so I was playing her as not having enough experience to really understand the world around her. In the first session, a boar charged her and she panicked and raised her hands in defense, accidentally casting lightning lure on the boar and scaring it away. For a while, we played that she didn't understand how she was doing magic. So she had to roll Arcana to see if she could actually make it work. The first 2 or 3 times, she failed badly, and her magic just wouldn't work. A little further on in the journey, and it was getting dark out, so Zulra tried to make a stick light up. Mechanically, she was trying to cast light. She's currently traveling with a monk and a barbarian, and the monk said she needed to be focused and calm. So Zulra tried to focus, and it just wasn't happening. Then the barbarian said, as per usual, "Get mad! Everything works better when you're mad." So Zulra slapped the stick with her free hand and yelled, "Stupid stick, light up!" DM has me roll Arcana at disadvantage to see if she finally gets a spell to work. Come on, you can do it. And she gets 2 nat 20s. The spell worked so well it accidentally turned into flame and burnt up the stick. We came up with a new unofficial sorcerer bloodline for her after that. Rage Sorcerer. If you want something that more fits a moment, one time I asked my DM if I could take an awakened rock. There were a few rolls involved. Yes, it did end with a nat 20 and some excellent cooking. Got my rock. His name was Fergus. He counted as my familiar, but that only meant no combat. Still had way better travel than the rest of the party. Just happened today, actually. I'm playing a warlock and my team just defeated an evil sock puppet, huh? Yes, I'm serious. And after the fight, the monk suggested I inspect it since my warlock is built for this. I do, and ended up being sent to a mindscape with the puppet demon. Well, we struck a deal. I carry the puppet spirit, and he eventually grants me power. When I come out of the dreamscape, literally everyone is suspicious of me as the sock puppet in my hands turned to ash. The monk wanted to incite me, and I roll deception. Nat 20 versus a 3. Everyone saw this odd possession happen, but now no one suspects a thing. Earlier on in a game of SKT, I was in a one-on-one with my DM. My character, a CL fighter, along with the 4 dwarf NPC party members, a fighter, a cleric, and 2 rangers, came across a party of orcs, led by an Eye of Grumesh. The orcs were already rather hostile on account of the dwarves, but were especially riled up when they found out my character was an elf. There is a blood hatred between orcs and elves and all that jazz. I told my DM I wanted to call a truce so we didn't have to fight, because we knew it wasn't each other that was causing the food shortages. I was told to roll a disadvantage, and charisma was my dump stat. But my DM, the gracious man he was, said that the nat 20 I rolled could cancel out the disadvantage. By the gods, I felt relieved. The party was me, giant mantis rogue bard, a tiefling fighter, and a gnome artificer. It started with an adventure for a king to gather artifacts to stop a kingdom-wide apocalypse. We ended up finding a deck of many things, and my character got a keep. That was decided to be occupied by a lich. We need to call a janitor for that one. We spent some time locating the phylacteries, one of which was inside a Matryoshka doll-like mimic filled with smaller mimics. If you don't know what that means, that's basically a nesting egg doll or a nesting doll. We initially got it to vomit the phylactery with a high enough persuasion roll, as well as all the furniture it ate, fucking up an entire living room set and a giant ottoman. After getting the phylactery, my giant mantis wanted to try and tame the mimic with cinnamon rolls he has learned to bake from a temple of knowledge, having a recipe book he borrowed. DM said it would be very difficult as he was a lich's minion, but I got a nat 20. The rogue bard Mortimer Mantis now parades around with his trusty sidekick, Chomps, the scarf mimic, who helps Mortimer deal with various things such as climbing, storing objects in Chomps, eating any cinnamon rolls not fit for human consumption, because how would a mantis know how to make human food, and biting any nasty critics of the giant mantis bard known as World's Biggest Distraction. I'm just gonna drop that time in Relic Estate where a fighter baked a cake with an intimidation check. Wait, how? Explain, I need more context. Insert aggressive baking noises here. Definitely the time that someone stole the God of Thievery's belt and got a level. The child wants an orange juice. You a nat 20 deception check, and our sorcerer passive-aggressively sipping on an orange juice. This one isn't funny, but more very lucky. I was trying to unlock a door that was clearly locked, and the DM said it would be a DC 32 for a level 4 party. We were all thinking, why the hell is the DC so high? So anyway, I roll a nat 20. I smile and keep adding my mods and bonuses and guidance and whatnot. The roll ends up being like a 34 or something. It was a pretty sweet moment. My character's comment was, still got it. I convinced my own party that I didn't exist with a nat 20, and then crit failed my last death saving throw. She died how she lived. Unknown. Now, I really just want to try and make an enemy have an existential crisis by telling them that we're not real, that none of this is real, and that this is all a hallucination, and that he needs to just wake up and accept it. These are not the adventurers you were looking for. I rolled a nat 20 stealth plus pass without trace, plus a guidance, which put the roll something around 42. The gods couldn't even find me. I jokingly asked the DM if I could try to snipe a fleeing goblin. He had me roll disadvantage, got 2 nat 20s, and harpooned a goblin ass. My funniest nat 20 was when we were playing a random game for fun. We were messing around a little bit, and we find a magical hat that can change size once to fit the wearer's desire. He asks if he can roll for it. Nat 20. We now have a bard in our party with a hat 5 times bigger than his head. Amazing. My best nat 20 moment was when I was using a level 5 bard who had plus 12 in persuasion. Now I rolled a nat 20, and with my proficiencies, a 32, and convinced someone to die. This also happened with the same character a few sessions later when I intimidated someone to death. I'm also proficient in intimidation. It's great times. The same character nearly drowned in a plaza fountain thanks to his -3 in strength because he saw the fountain and said, "Oh gee, that's a nice looking fountain. I wonder what'll happen if I jump in." I wonder what his intelligence score was at that point. I know this was like 2 years ago, but I want to share regardless because it's funny. To me at least. We were facing off an orc as well as some goblins for a warm-up, as one usually does. The orc seemed very upset, and would constantly attack my half-orc barbarian. Well, I picked up my friend's character named Dimpledor. And with a nat 20, 24 I believe with my strength bonus, I legitimately threw him into 2 goblins and the orc. Yeah, I killed a goblin by throwing my partner. We all died of laughter for 2 minutes straight. Yeah, I have the habit of throwing my party. The DM tried to tell me to stop throwing my fellow party members, but he was laughing too hard for me to know for sure if he was really being serious. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here, just trying to check in after the vid, making sure everyone stays hydrated, happy, and healthy. If you like today's vid, make sure to leave a like, to subscribe, and to ring that bell so you can get notified whenever we post a new one. And of course, you got a story to submit to us, do so on the subreddit r/MrRipper. And if you want to check anything else out, we have a Twitch, we have a TikTok, and you can even come say hi to me. Links should be in the description below. If not, I'll tell Mr. Ripper and all of the others to get on that. Now, that being said, I always try to end things on a positive or at least something happy, something a little bit more jovial than what's going on in the world sometimes. And I kind of want to just talk about a nat 20 I got. Twice, and most of you who are still around probably have seen me nat 20 at least one time on the D&D campaigns that we did on stream. Well, I remember my half-orc barbarian basically getting pissed off that a door was open, or something of the such, and I just nat 20 flunged a fucking tavern table at the door, killing an enemy and several civilians in the way, because my half-orc was attempting to do and ended up making a tavern painted the color red. So you never know when something silly and goofy is going to happen in your game, and I highly encourage DMs out there in the whole world to just allow some silly and goofy shit. Because it's going to be memorable, it'll be stories for years to come because of that, and you never know, you might inspire somebody else to go play D&D by literally telling them how stupid or how funny a moment of yours was. All the love, please be safe, be happy, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.